In Paris, the streets are like a runway and every day is a fashion show. This quote is from the character Mindy in Emily in Paris. Since then, the show's directors decided to move the series to Rome, despite pushback from our beloved president Emmanuel Macron.
Emily in Paris in Roma doesn't make sense.
He meant Rome, sorry, he pronounced it the Italian way. Now, Rome replied that, quote, Emily should be allowed to choose where her heart leads her, end quote. Go girl, Vi queen. To be fair, Parisians were generally happy with the news. Many of them had been complaining about the filming, the tourists, and the fact that Emily can't dress properly. Finally, we would get a break. Not really. On the morning of November 5th, 2025, a line stretched for hundreds of meters outside a fancy shopping center in Paris called the BHV. The center is known for selling luxury brands like Gucci, Givenchy, Fendi, and formerly Chanel. Oh, should I do a French accent for this entire video? No, I won't do that. Chanel and Dior, but that's not what shoppers lined up for on that day. No, they came to check out the new addition to the BHV, which has caused a lot of drama. What they came for was this.
SheIn.
It's everywhere, covering the whole building. They even produced a poster featuring the director of the BHV and the CEO of SheIn, captioned, quote, the poster we shouldn't have made, just to really piss people off. Now this is a big win for SheIn. It started back in 2008 in Nanjing as a small online retailer, but over the past decade, it has exploded into a global phenomenon. By 2024, the app had been downloaded hundreds of millions of times worldwide and drew 88.8 million shoppers globally. What made SheIn really disruptive was how it combined trendy, low-cost fashion with super fast supply chains through a simple, convenient interface. An app. SheIn adds hundreds or even thousands of new items every day to match what customers are posting or talking about online. Over time, it became not just a fashion giant, but also the symbol of an industry, the fashion industry, which most of us love and hate at the same time. In France, that hatred is magnified because we're very skeptical with fashion, we love fashion, but also because our local big boy billionaire, Bernard Arnault, actually owns most of what the world recognizes as French fashion, so Louis Vuitton, Dior, Celine, Givenchy, etc. He became the world's richest man for a few months in 2024 before Elon Musk secured his place again. But anyway, that's just a combat coq, as we say in French, nothing more than an ego war. So yeah, SheIn's arrival in a Parisian fashion temple added fuel to the fire as it materialized an anxiety that had so far remained rather abstract, because remote, because virtual. SheIn suddenly feels more real. But I'm still wondering, why are they doing this? Amid controversies around problematic products being sold on their websites.
It was an image of this doll clutching a teddy bear accompanied with a racy description on SheIn's website, which got French authorities taking notice.
And regulations being discussed at the EU level. Why did they think it was a good idea to establish themselves in Paris? And what does that mean for the fashion industry at large? My name's Alice, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about SheIn taking over the fashion capital of the world. Part 1. Fashion is a right. About a year ago, a Parisian friend posted this on their Instagram story, quote, La mode est un droit, pas un privilège, which means fashion is a right, not a privilege. This poster was made by SheIn. It encapsulates the fashion giant's marketing strategy in France, pushed through brand sponsorships with influencers using the same slogan, fashion is a right, not a privilege, presenting SheIn as the solution to people's decreasing purchasing power. This marketing strategy reflects one of SheIn's strengths, its constant monitoring of social media trends. We know that SheIn regularly steals designs from small independent creators, and it also steals its marketing talking points from social media commentary. Public discourse around SheIn has evolved a lot over the past few years. Critics initially attacked the retail giant through a moral lens, arguing that SheIn's labor practices, production model, and marketing are immoral and that consumers should boycott it. Then the discourse evolved to integrate the perspective of people struggling to make ends meet, who rely on fast fashion not just to dress, but to dress cute as well. Others have also explained that they struggle to find clothes that fit properly and therefore go to fast fashion to lower the risk of disappointment. The goal of this evolution in discourse was to make sure the debate does not center on individual behaviors, on those who consume ethically versus those who don't. Instead, commentators explained that this was a political matter, that fashion shouldn't belong to a privileged few, and that traditional fashion brands have become inaccessible. And that is where SheIn comes in, steal that take and use it for their campaign. Fashion is a right, not a privilege. I mean, yeah, if you want to know something about capitalism, it's that it's really great at incorporating criticism in its model. You want to solve the climate crisis? There you go, green capitalism. You want to feel empowered as a woman? There you go, girl boss feminism. And you want to look cute in austerity? SheIn's marketing campaign. Fashion is a right, not a privilege. SheIn is now at the forefront of fighting against social inequality with an army of 88 cargo flights per day sent abroad alongside Temu. And before you say that this is not a SheIn problem but a fast fashion problem, I will say that I agree, it is a fast fashion and ultra fast fashion problem, but SheIn is nothing like its competitors. Allow me a short tangent now. SheIn only has one real permanent shop. It is mostly just an app, yet its CO2 production grew from 9.70 million metric tons of CO2 in 2022 to 16.68 million metric tons of CO2. That is almost twice as much as H&M. SheIn also adds thousands of new products to its catalogs every single day. It adds in just a few days what its fast fashion competitors add in a whole year. SheIn is also a pioneer of gamification, the practice of integrating game-like features into consumer apps to encourage sales. Their survival depends on selling millions of items, and in order to do so, they have unleashed capitalism. They exploit Chinese and migrant workers to provide Western working and middle classes with thousands of new clothes to buy every day, which eventually end up in landfills somewhere in Africa. I'm not joking, this is as dirty as capitalism gets. But this is how you give access to fashion. This is how you guarantee that right, SheIn argues. That line of defense sounds to me like the infamous "there is no ethical consumption under capitalism." It is basically the same thing, and while I agree with that line, I did not expect that a hyper-capitalist company would eventually turn it into a marketing argument. But the deeper question I want to get to is this. Are they right? Is fashion a right? I think we can agree that having clothes to put on your body is a right, that is a matter of personal dignity. But fashion is different. Fashion implies styles, trends, and self-expression. Should that be right as well? It's fair to ask the question because as I watched a bunch of interviews, reactions to the SheIn arrival in the BHV, I've heard a lot of activists argue that SheIn is wrong, fashion is not a right, having clothes is a right, but fashion is not a right. And that got me thinking, if we cannot guarantee that right, at least we should recognize that fashion should not be limited to the most privileged among us. Beauty in the form of art, architecture, or fashion does not have to belong to the rich. But as soon as I say this, I feel like I need to define what beauty or even fashion means. Both are very subjective. What is beautiful or fashionable for me will not necessarily be for you. That is true, but it doesn't make the argument for greater access less valid. When we say fashion and beauty are subjective, we mean that they reflect a person's tastes, which reflect their personality, values, and also their culture, etc., etc. I think it's fair to say that dressing in a way that resonates with and echoes those things should not be a privilege, regardless of class, size, or geography. Others have also been arguing for a right to ethical clothing, which is a bit different but still connected. Ethical clothing means that the materials used are not too harmful to the environment and that the workers are paid fairly. The idea is that our right to self-expression through clothing should not come at the cost of another worker's dignity abroad. And to be fair, SheIn is not an ally in that quest. Contrary to what we have just described, the company defines fashion purely through the lens of novelty. Fashionable equals having new clothes all the time. SheIn needs to score millions of sales of the same piece of clothing in order to recoup the cost of production. They kill fashion by pushing their top products into as many carts as possible with discount codes and deadlines, uniforming fashion in the process. Part 2. The logic of history. We're about to move to part 2, but I just want to say a quick word. You probably already know this, but I'm a Nebula creator. Nebula is a wonderful streaming platform that really centers creators. I have all my YouTube videos over there, some videos that aren't actually on YouTube, and I also do early access when schedule allow it. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about a show that has just been released on Nebula, a show from my dear friend and colleague Tara Mooney. The show is called Politics. It's a super fun series and Tara has been investing a lot into it to the point of actually buying Hooters merch. I know it was very hard for her. 2 episodes are out so far. The first one was about Sydney Sweeney and the death of woke. And I loved it. If you know Tara, you know you're gonna have a good time. She's funny, she's educational. The video explores how Sydney's body has been so central to contemporary culture wars, and it also addresses some of the wildest comments made in the process, like this idea that Sweeney allows heterosexual men to finally come out of the closet after years of hiding. This show, Politics, is only available on Nebula, so if you want to check out the series and get access to so much more, you can sign up at go.nebula.tv/alice.cappelleyt, or you can just scan the QR code on screen. The subscription is super affordable. Again, that's go.nebula.tv/alice.cappelleyt. I'll put the link in the description box. Thank you, Nebula, for sponsoring the segment and supporting the channel, supporting my work. Part 2. The Logic of History. On Instagram, the director of the BHV explained that he understood the criticism against SheIn, but added that, quote, "This is the logic of history." That statement pissed people off even more, but I still want to do a little detour, see what he means by it. So let's do a little tangent and look at the history of the BHV. The BHV Marais was founded in 1856 and it started out as the ultimate practical store for everyday Parisians, a place where workers, craftsmen and families could find everything they needed under one roof. It was part of the rise of the Grand Magasin in the 19th century, those massive new department stores that were celebrated for their modernity, but also heavily criticized at the time for wiping out small neighborhood shops by centralizing everything into one giant retail machine. For more than a century, BHV stayed true to that pragmatic working class spirit, but from the 2000s onward, the store began shifting its image by bringing in more upscale labels and even welcoming luxury brands like Gucci, Chanel, and Dior on its fashion and beauty floors. So yeah, for a lot of people, the arrival of SheIn is seen as the BHV going back to its essence. It's getting accessible again.
Si on achète français, c'est beaucoup plus cher et on n'a pas forcément les moyens non plus d'acheter français.
But the idea of a return to its roots seems a bit anachronistic. We are not in the 19th century, 20th century anymore. The quality and durability of clothes are pretty bad these days, and also Paris' population has become much wealthier. The type of people who would go to BHV Marais, working classes, families, have been pushed out of the city. In fact, the people who queued at the SheIn opening came from various social backgrounds.
Vous me disiez que vous achetiez 400 € par mois de SheIn, vous achetiez 100 € par semaine.
Exactement.
Now, there is not a lot of data on who shops fast fashion, but a study was conducted among French customers. I believe they asked 400 people. If I'm not mistaken, I'll correct that on screen if it's not true. But among respondents, 45% said that they shop at traditional fast fashion retailers like H&M and Zara. Men make up 58% of this group with an average age of 43. That was quite interesting. These brands attract a broad demographic across all income levels. So that's the data for fast fashion retailers, which often have physical shops. That's something we need to take into account. Things change a bit when we move to ultra fast fashion. Just 24% of the study's respondents purchase from ultra fast fashion brands like SheIn, Temu, ASOS, or Boohoo. These customers tend to be younger and more female. 70% are women and the average age is 38. Another piece of information that is interesting, 57% of ultra fast fashion customers earn less than 1.5 thousand euros, which is a little bit above minimum wage in France. 57% compared to 40% of all apparel shoppers. So fast fashion retailers attract a lot of men, and when you move to ultra fast fashion, which is more online, you find more women, but not necessarily very young women. Again, the average age is 38, so we can safely assume that a big chunk of these consumers are mothers, and it kind of makes sense. We understand why being able to get cheap clothes on the website and have them delivered to your home is convenient. But what I'm interested in for this video, and in this second part in particular, is SheIn's move to in-person retail, and specifically into a high-end store. I want to argue that there is a convergence between fast fashion and luxury. The BHV director's comment that this is the logic of history confirms my assumption, and I will elaborate on why I think so. Let me start with a question. Have you been to a Zara or H&M store lately? I don't personally shop fast fashion, but I sometimes visit those stores out of curiosity, or maybe because I'm with a friend, and I have noticed that these shops are aiming to look more and more luxurious. They are more airy, the clothes are not stored but exposed. The spaces are less packed with racks and stuff. The lights and colors are giving quiet luxury. You don't have to hear that annoying creaky rack noise anymore. The models look more sophisticated. Something has changed. And guess what? The SheIn shop in Paris very much emulates that. Look at the pictures. It is giving quiet luxury. Like if you tell me ultra fast fashion shop, that is not what comes to mind. This, what you see on screen, has nothing to do with the BHV's early days, with the bazaar and everything. Instead, they are selling you the experience of quiet luxury, but for cheap. That's the logic of history. Fast fashion and ultra fast fashion are seeking the aesthetic of luxury to expand their market upwards. On the other hand, luxury brands are seeking to expand their market downwards. This strategy is sometimes called accessible luxury or aspirational luxury. That means people who buy one luxury item a year, maybe two. We know them as the new rich or the aspirational middle class. For these groups, luxury brands are signifiers of an upwardly mobile lifestyle. To get the attention of these demographics, luxury brands market entry-level products like perfumes, cosmetics, small leather goods, and sunglasses to strategically turn them into consumers. Some other high-end brands have also grown the size of their logos to the point where that is all you see. Napapiri, and yes, I just checked the pronunciation after mispronouncing it for more than a decade. But anyway, Napapiri and Tommy Hilfiger are great examples of this. Big logos are a way to quickly communicate that you can afford high-end brands, and that way you can differentiate yourselves from other middle-class or sometimes working-class peers. The difficulty though for high-end and luxury brands is to balance the conquest of new markets with long-term prestige. There is a risk to become too normie and lose your original markets, so rich people who don't necessarily buy the big logos because that would be a bit too tacky, but rather invest in the coats, in the jumpers, in the shirts, etc. One last interesting element I want to talk about here is the influence of secondhand fashion on high-end and luxury brands' prestige. My go-to example for this is Ralph Lauren, and I'm going to speak from a European perspective, but you can tell me in the comments if you've seen that outside of Europe. I feel like I can't go to one of those cool and curated secondhand kilo shops without finding some Ralph Lauren shirts and jumpers, sometimes upcycled as crop tops and whatnot. Now, this is also a form of downward expansion of market. This time, it's not done directly by the brand, it's done indirectly through the second-hand market, both online with apps like ThredUp, Vinted or Depop, or in person with those curated thrift shops. Some high-end or luxury brands accept or are forced to accept the implications of expanding markets, and others reject it. Actually, as SheIn established itself in BHV, luxury brands like Dior and Chanel left. So yeah, you have fast fashion expanding upward with fast fashion and ultra fast fashion brands using IRL retail to gain legitimacy, and then you have high-end or luxury brands directly or indirectly expanding downward, conquering new customers and risking to lose some of their exclusivity. So yeah, if you look at fashion through this lens, a more economic marketing lens, which is basically what the BHV director cares about. That statement by the director that SheIn's arrival at the BHV is the logic of history suddenly makes sense. Fast fashion and high-end fashion are flirting with each other in order to keep growing their respective markets. SheIn's arrival at the BHV is not an anomaly. It is symptomatic of broader transformations in the fashion industry. Fast fashion and luxury are no longer opposites, they are two sides of the same market logic, incorporating their respective criticism in order to keep growing in the interest of no one except a few big players at the top. I love fashion, but what I can say is that I gave up on the fashion industry a long time ago. I was very lucky to grow up near huge charity shops that we visited regularly from an early age. I made a lot of mistakes at the beginning with my outfit choices, but I eventually learned how to dress with what was available, and now I feel very confident in what I wear. What do you think of the outfit today? I shouldn't ask this question because then I'm gonna get a bunch of creepy comments. But anyway, I generally like every piece of clothing I have picked up over the years, and that's what fashion means to me. At the same time, I'm deeply aware of the limitations of thrift shops and secondhand clothing. This is why I also advocate for rights to ethical clothing and to clothing dignity in general. And to be fair, if you had to take away one thing from this video, I would love it to be that fashion, ethical fashion, should not be a privilege, and that we can't really rely on fashion industry giants for that. I think that the changes are gonna be bottom up. They're gonna be grassroots. In a video I did a while back now, I talked about the idea of a fashion library where you can borrow clothes, etc. That way you can still experiment with style, use fashion to self-express, but also not ruin yourself in the process. And it was so cool because I think a few months after I posted this video, someone texted me, DM'd me and said that they had created that in their own little town. So yeah, when I think about fashion and what we can do, that's kind of what I have in mind. So yeah, hope this video was interesting. Don't forget to leave a like, to subscribe, to hype it. That's a new thing. I'm always like so late with like the new YouTube features, but apparently now you can hype content that you enjoy so that it boosts the video in the algorithm. So please do that if you can, if you enjoy the content. If you want to support me as well, support the channel, we have a Patreon where you'll find a bunch of exclusive videos, updates on what we're doing with the channel. There's the Discord chat as well, live streams, all that good thing. It's on Patreon. I'll put a link in the description box. Patreon is also the best way to support the work I do. And when I say I should say we, because there's a little team. We're 2 people working full-time on this channel. Thank you also to Nebula for supporting the channel. Don't forget to go check out Tara Mooney's show, Politics. It's on Nebula. I'll put a link to that down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. Oh my gosh, no, I forgot to thank the Patreons, of course. Thank you, big thank you to all my Patreons, and a special thank to top tier Patrons: Nothal Shamari, Fred, Hongqing Wang, Paul-Louis Agenot, Patrick Button, Jeff Lee, Yilan, Taya Matin, Nick, Alina, Brandon, Jem Siddle, Ojwal, Patrick, Boris, Ria, Corey G, Tristan, Christopher, Jan, Donage, Alex, Manuel, Christopher France, and Perry. And thank you to the other ones who prefer to stay anonymous. That's it now. That's it for me. Okay, salut, bye bye. Just give me 1 sec, I need to check the pronunciation because I've never done this in all those years. Napapiri and Tommy Hilfiger